All right, 12 games in the league tonight. I got to be fast about this. In that we have stuff to do that we're doing today. I won't be home again until about late tonight. So I'm not going to see a lot of hockey. I'll see whatever I can from where I am, but odds are with where I am in the States, it won't be on television, and definitely not on television. So college football would be there, regular football, anything but hockey would be my guess. Anyways, we're starting off looking at Philly, who are at home against Buffalo. The Flyers are the ultimate hot and cold team so far this year. They're 0-10, well, 0-5-5, because 5 of those losses are in overtime. And now they've won 4 in a row. They came back off of that victorious run through Western Canada. They won 3 in a row to defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And now they face an American team. And it'll be fun to see whether or not they can beat Buffalo, or whether or not maybe there's a mystique from here on that they can only beat teams in Canada. Maybe they beat Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa from here, and they don't beat Eastern teams based in the U.S. Philly was better than that 10-game losing streak. I don't know how good Philly is. I think they're still finding out. Getting up for a game against Buffalo is a good measure of that. You need to beat Buffalo. They are the lowest ranked team in the East, and you need to take advantage of that, especially in a Metro division that is damn near impossible. So there you go. Buffalo and Philly is going to be one of those interesting ones. Now, the Islanders are facing Columbus, and both of these teams have kind of petered out over their last 10 games. Columbus 6-4, the Islanders 5-4-1, and they've both started to look kind of pedestrian, human. The Islanders coming off of a 5-2 loss against Dallas, and Columbus off of a 7-2 loss against Edmonton. After that loss, of course, John Tortorella came out and said to the media, "I'm not answering questions tonight," and walked away. And I don't blame him. This is where it's going to get interesting, because this is the first time in a while that there's been real adversity with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Tortorella is a coach who can be worse for that. So while your team's going through this really rough patch, the way that Tortorella reacts and his personality can make it worse. We'll see. We'll see if they can turn it around. I know he's trying to do all of the right things, and he's had great success in Columbus to this point. We'll see what happens from here. And the Islanders can't afford to keep losing like they've been losing. This is, again, the toughest division in hockey. Philly's getting better. These guys need to make sure they keep their distance. So it'll be interesting to see which one wins that game. If I had to wager, I'd say, yeah, Columbus has to bounce back because they had that 7-2 loss. But the Islanders, with that 5-2 loss, should be equally embarrassed in terms of their recent results. It could be a fight-filled affair, if there's any such thing in the NHL anymore. Fight-filled these days, I think, qualifies as 2 fights, maybe 2.5. But it'll be spirited, we'll put it that way. Okay, let us get on to our next order of business, which is the Capitals and the Bruins. 2 teams that are 8-2 in their last 10. Boston's got 3 wins in a row. And things are looking kind of rosy for both teams. Both were teams that were not expected to necessarily be that good. Boston had to come back and win in overtime against Detroit last night, which is how everybody's beating Detroit all the time right now. And for the Capitals, they've been very, very good for the last month. This should be a fun game. It's in Boston. I would lean towards a Boston victory for the fact that it's in Boston. But Washington does kind of have Boston's number in recent years and just overall. For Boston, it's a chance to really solidify their grip on 3rd place in the Atlantic. That's right. If the playoffs started today, Toronto would play Boston. So, yeah, get your popcorn, because that'd be fun all over again. But right now, Boston 59-4 needs to make sure that they stay ahead of everybody behind them. which shouldn't be too bad, too hard to do. And yet there's certain teams that I know could get hot and catch up and things could get ugly. But Washington comes in, and that's Ovechkin and the boys. I don't have, at this stage when I'm doing this, I don't have any idea who starting goaltenders are. I would imagine it'll be Hudobin for Boston. I would imagine. If that's not confirmed by now, it will be. Hudobin's been very good, so I don't take that as a downgrade at all over Rask. But Rask has been much better in recent games than he was to start the season, and credit is given where it's due. Be interesting to see who wins that one. All right. Toronto. So the Maple Leafs and the Minnesota Wild. In a Norris division matchup, as it were. When it was the Minnesota North Stars. And anyways, if I have to explain it, it's not funny. Toronto's 20-11-1. The Minnesota Wild are 16-11-3. In their last 10, Toronto 6-3-1 and Minnesota 7-3. Health has helped Minnesota get better. It's basically what it comes down to. Since they got healthy, things have got better. They've won 3 in a row. Things are on the up for Minnesota. And that makes the Central Division even tougher. For right now, Minnesota is in the second wildcard spot and would play St. Louis. Toronto would, of course, as I said, play Boston. It'll be interesting to see who wins this one, in that I think Minnesota's playing better hockey right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs, on the other hand, have a solid road record to go with their solid home record. And Minnesota, yeah, this is a game I could see this definitely going to overtime either way. So either way, I could see this one going to overtime. And if it does, I would favor Minnesota, but only just. Interesting about Toronto is that there's been rumblings that maybe the upper body injury for Matthews might be a concussion. I don't know whether that's what it is or not, but if it's a concussion, it could be interesting to see how Toronto does. They're 5-1 without Matthews in the lineup. But how long do you keep that up? How long can you play well without Austin Matthews in your lineup? We'll find out. Jersey and Minnesota. Jersey, Montreal. 17-9-4. Jersey goes into Montreal 13-4-4. Montreal's lost 3 in a row. Hey, Jersey, if you want to win in Montreal, today's the day. 5-4-1 Jersey, 5-3-2 Montreal over their last 10. Montreal, again, is starting to look like a team that has issues with scoring. Their goaltending has been average over this losing streak. And, you know, it's been said in the media, they have to have Carey Price playing at his best or they don't win. And that, again, seems to be the case for Montreal right now. So I don't know what Bergevin's going to do, but Bergevin has been on the record saying that the problem's going to be fixed by whatever's in the locker room, and he seems to be still of the mind that that's the way to fix it, and Montreal ownership is very unlikely to actually move on Bergevin during the season. There'd have to be something catastrophic in order for that to happen. They don't qualify this as catastrophic at this point. It's underachieving, it's not catastrophic. And yet, to some of us who felt that Montreal was kind of riding the coattails of Price and there was some luck involved last year, this result doesn't really surprise some. But of course, Montreal fans want to see better and demand better. And seeing that Boston's in third place, and everybody seems to think that Boston's some vulnerable hockey team, they think that third space is very easily captured. We'll find out. But, yeah, I think Jersey could go in there and do some damage against Montreal because Montreal's confidence tends to ebb and flow, and right now it's not in a good place. It's gonna be one of those nights, and I don't get to see it. See, we're going down to Bellingham today. We're going to Ferndale first, and then we're going to Bellingham. So we got Christmas stuff that we're doing. So it's not that I'm just being lazy and not watching hockey games. I'd love to be watching hockey games so I can report on all this stuff for you guys. But you're gonna have to be my eyes and ears for tonight. And while I was on Facebook on my phone minutes ago. It died. My phone is 100% dead as far as I can tell. And I've got one of those phones that you can't take the battery out. I don't know why they make phones now that you can't take the battery out, because if I could take the battery out, that'd probably fix it. I'd reset it, and it'd probably fix the problem. But why let us fix the problem? Oh, hey, problems. Anaheim. Health. Health is an issue in Anaheim. They're 3-3-4 in their last 10, 13-11-7 overall. St. Louis is 21-9-2, but 5-4-1 in their last 10. So St. Louis has kind of come down off of that really fast start. Schwartz is, of course, out. Anaheim has Getzlaf back. If I had to pick an upset of the night, this is it. Anaheim should start getting better with Getzlaf back. Hopefully he's in full health and good to go. And Kessler, I think, is a month away. And then once they get Kessler back, their center depth is intimidating. Because remember, they got Henrique from the New Jersey Devils. And Devils fans have already been talking about how Vatanen hasn't necessarily been that stabilizing force on the blue line that they'd hoped he'd be. To which Ducks fans would say, yep. I would expect a good game from Anaheim tonight. Again, St. Louis, though, has a strong offense, even without Schwartz, and Anaheim has to limit them to less than 30 shots. In the games they've won, they've kept the shots against down, and that's key because they do tend to allow a lot of shots. So as long as they can control St. Louis, hem them in their own zone, frustrate them, get a goal early, Anaheim can absolutely win this game. So that would be my bet if I had to make a bet on the upset of the night anyways. And that's no slam on St. Louis, it's just the Ducks have been underachieving. Okay, Chicago and Winnipeg. Chicago's won 3 in a row. They're 15-11-5 now. Winnipeg's 18-8-5. I don't know how much of an upset it would be for the Chicago Blackhawks to come in and beat Winnipeg. But Winnipeg is coming off of a win over the Canucks 5-1. And Chicago is still Chicago. This should be a very entertaining game. I would imagine hard-hitting. I would imagine fights in this one as well. And I would be surprised if Chicago didn't come out of this one with a win. Just based on the fact that Winnipeg's record's very good, but Chicago's been hot coming into this game, and they're absolutely bound and determined to get back into this race before the division gets away from them. And, of course, the top 3 teams in the division being Nashville, St. Louis, and Winnipeg, they don't want to be fighting over a wild card spot. They want one of those top 3 spots. In order to get there, you have to win games like this. You have to close in, and you have to do it in regulation. You don't want to be getting an overtime win and giving them a point. So only gain 1 point on them. That's not a strategy that's going to win, and it's never a strategy to do that. It's just what happens. So for me right now, Chicago's playing some fantastic hockey, and Winnipeg has been as well. They both have 5 wins in their last 10, though, because it's just been so... Well, Winnipeg's better at home than on the road, too. So we'll see how that turns out. Anyways. It's one of those things where people are probably like, there's little edits, little pauses he's doing here. I wonder what's going on. Yeah. It's one of those days. All right. So, Chicago, Winnipeg, this is the game I would likely be watching if I was going to be home for it. More's the pity. Not going to happen. Let's move on. Florida, Colorado. So, Colorado went in and put a spanking on Florida. Florida's going to be looking to come in and do the same to Colorado. The problem is Colorado at home has been good. Florida on the road has not. And Florida is trying to dig their way out of this hole they got themselves into, but 4-3-3 in 10 games doesn't do it. But look at Colorado's 3-6-1 in their last 10. So Colorado is doing the same thing in my eyes that Vancouver's doing. They are trying to fight to avoid falling into last year's malaise, and the results are mixed. And in Vancouver's case, last night was a complete and total failure. I don't see that for Colorado because while Vancouver's playing Nashville, Colorado's playing Florida. So I think Colorado wins this tonight, and they avoid falling below 500, which of course is numbers of wins versus losses. Make sure that you're one game above 500, so 15 wins, 14 losses. I see Colorado getting there. I don't know how long they stay there, though. I've been very impressed with Colorado early in the season, but I still don't think they have a team that's good enough for playoffs, definitely. And I don't know that they can stay in contention for the playoffs through to mid-January. I think that fall has already started. And yet, tonight, I don't think they have much to worry about. Because Florida, it'll be Reimer is my guess, due to the fact that Luongo's still hurt. And I don't think Florida wants to use their backup. I think it's going to be Reimer until Luongo comes back, minus any back-to-backs. So yeah, Colorado can likely feel pretty good tonight after the game's over. And as long as they're at home, they do have a better record than on the road. They're one of those teams that has a stark difference between home and road records. Sometimes those even out, though. They can even out pretty quickly. If your team starts to sink, you'll just sink all over the place. Okay, speaking of which, Nashville's and Edmonton. So what gives here? The Edmonton Oilers, who are 6-4 in their last 10. Nashville 7-1-2. Now this is a back-to-back. Odds are Saros plays tonight. Edmonton's got Brossoit. Anybody want to bet on a high-scoring game? Brossoit's had, I think it's 3 games in a row with 2 goals or less. And he got some credit for that on one of the sport talk shows I watched, where they're like, well, they got to improve on Talbot. And it's like, although Brossoit's been okay, and it's like, he's been more than okay. He's been actually pretty damn good the last few games. And he deserves credit for that. I said that yesterday. I would not be surprised if if Edmonton wins this game, based on the fact that Nashville's on the back half of a back-to-back. The Edmonton Oilers are on an upswing. They showed that in Columbus. They're absolutely capable of winning games right now. Connor McDavid is in beast mode, and when Connor McDavid's in beast mode, it's really, really difficult to stop him. And I could see him getting 2 or 3 points tonight and breathing down the neck of breathing down the neck of Stamkos and Kucherov by the weekend. And McDavid leading scoring starting next week. He is that good, and we talk about it and debate it, and when he gets off to, rough starts, or he has, a rough patch of 5-10 games, there are people who come out and say, see, he's not that good, he's not this great player everybody thinks he is, and then he goes on a run like this, and that kind of quiets down, and he's on that run right now. Not to bury Nashville. Nashville's coming off of a dominant performance against the Canucks. Were all the goals pretty? No, they weren't all pretty, but they were all goals. And when you score 7 goals, you're doing something right. You don't just luck your way into a 7-1 win. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and there's a pretty perfect all-around game that goes into it. And Nashville played that last night. Now, whether or not they have a letdown against the Oilers because it's back-to-backs, really it's going to depend on the first period. If the Oilers can get up on Nashville early, then Nashville likely has a problem in the second half of that game. And it could be, 3-1, 4-1 win for the Oilers based on that. But if Nashville can get out to an early lead, say they get up 2-0 on the Oilers, that, on the other hand, could start things going the other way. But usually in back-to-back nights, the team that's on that back-to-back, the second half of the game, they're tired, and by the third period, they're allowing a lot of shots. If they're against a rested team, they'll be allowing a lot of shots. Get up early, Nashville, or it could be ugly early. Okay, that being said, let's move on to San Jose and Calgary. 16-12-3, 16-10-3. This is the battle for third place in the Pacific. And the Flames can't really afford to lose because San Jose's got a couple games in hand on them. San Jose's playing better over the last 10, 6-2-2 versus 4-4-2. And San Jose's been the better team. San Jose has started to look like the Sharks. Right now, they would play Vegas in the first round. That would be fantastic. Calgary just misses the playoffs. Minnesota's in there instead, playing St. Louis. And I can tell you right now, if you're the Flames, you'd much rather play Vegas than St. Louis. So while we're not looking at that yet, you got to kind of look at it just for fun. That's why it's on the board. That's why it's here. The San Jose Sharks are coming in, playing very, very well, and I'd be kind of surprised actually if Calgary wins this one. Being completely honest, I'd be kind of surprised if Calgary wins this one. But they're at home. San Jose's on the road. You never know what might happen. We'll find out. The funny thing is, I honestly would have thought this would be second and third. That these two are fighting over second and third in the division, and that either Anaheim or Edmonton would have been in that mix too. And I would not have figured that LA and Vegas would have been anywhere near the conversation as they are right now. LA, of course, being first, Vegas being second. Tremendous season being had by those two teams. I think it's made the Pacific better than what any of us had anticipated before the season started, and yet the Pacific is still widely regarded as probably the second weakest division after the Atlantic. Probably. I don't think there's a probably about that. Speaking of weak teams in the Pacific, though, how about those Coyotes? So they're 7-21-5. They've lost 4 in a row. And who's coming to town? The Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning have won 5 in a row. They're 22-6-2. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And Tampa's 2-6-2 in their last 10. Now, I'd be really gutsy to pick an upset here, wouldn't I? I can't. I just can't. I could see this going to overtime. I just can't see Arizona beating Tampa. Even though anytime you have a long winning streak against a long losing streak, I tell you guys, just bet on it flipping. But I don't see Arizona having the players necessary to knock off the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning have been the Lightning again lately. During this 5-game winning streak, they've got their mojo back, and I just don't see this streak not going to 6. I don't see Arizona stopping them. Arizona has the heart. They make all the effort. They just don't have the talent on the ice. They don't have the experienced top-end talent that anybody else has. And I'm starting to wonder if, with the fact that Clayton Keller's point totals have started to just drop way off the board, are they putting too much pressure on him? I had said early in the season, it's a lot of ice time they're giving Keller. It's a lot of ice time for a kid that's just brand new to the NHL. And I'm starting to get concerned. Because he hasn't been scoring very well lately. I think he had like 2 points in his last 12 games, the last I checked. That's alarming. It's alarming because the kid needs to come along slowly. I am a big proponent of, have a kid start on that third line and work his way up. Not the way that the Canucks did with Virtanen, where they started him early up high and then they dropped him down. And now Jake Virtanen will never be the forward that the Canucks had hoped when they drafted him. So we'll see. But Keller and the rest of the Dogs are at home against a very, very difficult to beat Tampa Bay Lightning team, who are coming in on a hot streak. And they're not likely to be nice just because they're against a lesser team in the NHL. Tampa's not 22-6-2 because they take certain teams lightly. They're 22-6-2 because they're very good against pretty much everybody. All right, final game of the night. The Pittsburgh Penguins are in Vegas in the Marc-Andre Fleury Cup. Marc-Andre Fleury is back. Vegas is back. Vegas is 6-3-1 in their last 10. Pittsburgh's 5-5. Before we leave, I'm going to do a video on Pittsburgh and on Pittsburgh's current issue. If I have time, I don't think I'm going to have time. But I do need to discuss Pittsburgh because it's in the news, and there's some interesting stuff coming out that I actually find it kind of baffling to me. But Pittsburgh goes into Vegas, a team in turmoil. I honestly think this could get ugly in Vegas' favor. I could totally see this being a 5-2 game for Vegas. Vegas has that chip on their shoulder. They're fantastic at home. Fleury's back in net. They have a lot of offense. They have a solid defense that plays in a system. They're the best coach team in the league. And they're 19-9-2. And Pittsburgh's 16-13-3. and there's something missing with Pittsburgh right now. Absolutely. Jim Rutherford's coming out and saying it, and he's right. There's something missing in Pittsburgh right now. This will be interesting. And I hope I'm home in time to see at least some of this game, because I'll be very interested to see if it turns out the way I think it will. I think Vegas could absolutely destroy Pittsburgh. This could be one of those lopsided games that you go in looking, going, well, maybe Pittsburgh's going to bounce back, and then nope. Absolute devastation. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. The subscribe button is very popular the last couple of days, and that's pretty awesome. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and if you're not, welcome those that are. And so there's your 12 games. I didn't have the starting goalies again because it's early in the day and most of them aren't confirmed. But you guys can do your own math on that. Be some fun hockey. And again, these are the matchups as they would occur in the playoffs right now. LA Dallas would be a mismatch. I would think LA would win that. Vegas and San Jose. Right now, Vegas. St. Louis, Minnesota. St. Louis would win that. Nashville, Winnipeg. I would actually take Winnipeg in that one. Just based on the fact Nashville came out of nowhere and got to the final. Sure, I'll say Winnipeg would win that matchup. Columbus and the Islanders. Columbus. They're both playing iffy. And, of course, they're playing each other tonight. Washington, New Jersey. I would take New Jersey in that one, actually. Tampa, Rangers, Tampa, Toronto, and Boston. I think Toronto would win that series. But, again, let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe, as I said. And I'll talk to you again soon.